Hello and welcome to the Pirates Fan Forum here on DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. I'm your host, Gary Morgan, still marooned down in Charlotte, North Carolina. My partner, Jim Stamm, is back at home manning the stairs of his house to get up to do this recording. You guys have no idea the lengths we'll go to get a show done. James faced stairs, and I stayed an extra night in Charlotte.
And you're Willie Nelson on the road again.
Yep.
Yeah, man. This is the last show we're doing with games to be played.
At least Pirate games. Yeah.
Yes, at least Pirate games. And I assume we'll get to that stuff at some point, but I feel like there's a lot of stuff, both with the pipe. We should just kind of float around tonight and just see what happens.
Yeah, for sure, man. I think that's the way to go. I think we'll have a nice loose conversation. Plus, I'm on hotel internet, so God knows what'll happen to our recording here as we're going along.
Yeah, if everything just stops, it's not my fault tonight, I don't think.
It's not. It's on me for sure. All right, so let's start with this Reds series because the Pirates, I think, stood toe-to-toe with the Reds. If you want the truth, man, their record's better, for real. They're in the race. I think they've got some work to do to finish the season the right way and have a real shot at it. But this Pirates team, when those two face off, they are truthfully not that much different. Their pitching is probably slightly below the Pirates. Their hitting is slightly above the Pirates. Really? Don't you think?
Yeah, it's funny. You look at these two teams, and there doesn't seem to be a whole lot separating them, but yet somehow I think the Reds are like plus 30-ish now in run differential on the year. So they're at least on the right side of that, which you need to be. I think Cleveland's the only one that's like somehow negative run differential, and they're doing what they're doing. But so they've gotten a little bit more hitting. Their ballpark helps with that. The pitching's good. Their pitching's really good. And, they brought in a manager that has some track record. And I'm not the first. I don't know how much I love the whole manager makes a huge difference. But maybe for teams like this that like you're kind of middling and you're not really able to figure it all out, maybe it does help.
The funny thing is, like, I think a lot of people are going to go right away to giving Francona the credit because he's done it before and he's done it on teams with a shoestring budget and he's made it work and he's gotten more out of less, and I that's where I want to go with it immediately too. But here's the thing. Fundamentally, the Cincinnati Reds are a crap baseball team. That's like job number one for a manager, right? Like, you know what I mean? They're pretty terrible fundamentally. And I wonder, is he just like that good at putting the right guys in the right situations? Like, if we're going to give him all this credit for what? Because like he's kind of not great at job number one.
Well, this is always the tricky part about these kinds of talks though, right? With managers, you just don't quite know how much they have to do with things. I think Josh brings up a good point. He said, I think a manager makes more of a difference on a young team, right? I think so. When you have veterans, they can kind of like, be the manager of their own clubhouse, right? Like you don't need that as much. When you got a lot of younger guys or new pieces and whatever, I do think a manager makes some difference there. But yeah, it's hard to quantify. Maybe there's just, that Clint Hurdle effect where you just know how to handle people better. And maybe it's just a handling people business more than we realize.
Okay. I mean, I guess I could buy that a manager was the differentiator. Let's go back and prorate out what Don Kelly has gotten done here with the Pirates, and let's pretend Derek Shelton wasn't here and prorate out the record, right? They're not
Okay.
either, but they're a lot closer to 500 if you believe that it was just a manager at the beginning of the season, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think the caliber of the manager matters some too, and just the experience, right? Like Don Kelly could be great, and he's still kind of learning. In that role, and there's a lot more responsibilities that come with that. So, we talked about this years ago now, sadly, that we thought that would maybe how they would do it, which would be like you get through the sludge and the rough stuff, and Derek Shelton will pay the price for that. We always thought that. And then we thought you would turn to somebody that has a little bit more of that, those chops, right? But that hasn't happened, and now we don't know what's going on with Don Kelly. So I do think experience matters. Those guys are getting harder to find, though. By the way,
Yeah.
A lot of these guys don't really want these jobs that are kind of the old school type dudes.
I think there's been pushback recently on some of the new school or the completely ignoring of the old baseball guard beliefs.
I would agree with that.
But I don't think that it's coming from a good place. I think it's coming from a place of guys that came up in that don't have typically the locker room experience to handle the on-field overseeing of the vision. They're pushing so many baseball guys out that they basically created like a room full of boy genius coaches like the Miami Dolphins have. You know what I mean? and I think they realized like they pushed it too far. So they're allowing the old school to push back a little bit. But I don't know to what end. And I honestly I think we've kind of overdone it with analytics to the point where I think we're getting to the point where it's very hard to find one you can't contradict with another one. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, for sure. I think baseball has always been susceptible to that. We just got to be such a slave to the numbers that that we started forgetting that like there are certain things that either can't be measured,
Yeah.
or you're just not looking in the right spots because you're already married to a certain type of thinking or philosophy, if you will.
Well, I'm happy to report, sir, that we got through segment one with relatively few bugaboos. And I mean,
Yeah.
and a lot of audience participation. I love a lot of the thoughts in there. In fact, I want to kind of harken back to a few of them as we continue the conversation because we glazed past it, but are the Pirates all that far away from being the Reds? I mean, are we maybe like a decent major league talent evaluation capable GM away from that? Let's talk about it.
Yeah, let's do that, and let's give the Pirates a little bit of credit that spoilers not the place you want to be at the end of a year, but they have hurt the Reds here, and for me, that's been fairly enjoyable at this point. So
it's always fun when the Reds have the red ass.
Yes.
At DK Pittsburgh Sports, we take pride in coverage that connects our city's fans to their favorite teams. Now, that connection's stronger than ever. Introducing our all-new state-of-the-art app. Find expert inside reporting and original podcasts. Check live box scores. Track the latest stats. Chat it up with our community of thousands of fans, all in one place. The new app from DK Pittsburgh Sports. Coverage that connects.
It ain't a new app anymore. We don't have a new ad. It's not a new app anymore, but it's still a good app.
Gary, if you haven't seen it or used it, it's new to you.
This is the true thing that you just said, my friend. Yes. So make sure that you guys subscribe to this show because we are trying to keep ourselves on schedule, but things happen, and if you're subscribed, you won't have to worry about hearing from us about when it is. You'll just know. It'll pop right up and tell you what's going on.
Yeah, we're all super busy, so it helps.
So Jim, I think that the Reds probably felt like they were settled at a few positions that they now don't feel like they're settled at. Matt McClain really, really struggled this year. There's a few areas where I think that they probably thought that they had progressed beyond, and they haven't yet. That said, their pitching is coming on super strong, and I think they're poised to kind of continue to be arrow up next year, but they're going to have to do the same thing the Pirates have to do. Probably trade from some of that pitching depth to get some offense, or they're going to have to go out and sign it. I think both of these teams are going to be looking for the same damn thing. And if the Pirates get it and the Reds don't, these teams are not far apart, in my opinion. In fact, I don't think they're far apart facing each other right now.
Yeah. If you look at them offensively, essentially what they've been able to do is they're not by any means a juggernaut, but I'm looking at it. They're tied for 20th in home runs, which, if the Pirates could just even get to that point, I think you would see a big difference in their record, right? Just getting somewhere near the middle. OPS, they are 19th. So we're not talking top 10 here,
right?
And
just
they're
showing better.
Yes, we're talking about trying to get things, because you have pitching. Just get to the point where you're not embarrassing yourself offensively, and you can probably be in a position like the Reds are right now.
Yeah,
which is
you got to have a certain kind of pitching to survive in that ballpark. I'm not going to call it Mickey Mouse like our friend Josh did here in the comments, but but it's a small ballpark, and to have a good pitching staff that can survive in that environment. I mean, yeah, your home run numbers are inflated in both directions, probably, right?
Sure.
That's the one criticism nationally of Hunter Green is that he's homer prone. Well, look where he pitches.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
You're going to by default give up more home runs there. I am looking 17th in OPS, 21st in slugging. You've really got to just get to that. If the Pirates could just get to somewhere around these types of numbers, we're having the same conversation next year, but it would be the Pirates, not the Reds, or maybe the Reds too. But so when we're talking about adding or getting better, man, we're just trying to just stay out of the low 20s when it comes to offensive rankings. Just get somewhere near the top 60%.
Middle ground.
Yeah, we're not talking anything insane here.
Here's a good topic. Here's a good topic for us to go off on. Bruce Nesbitt says, "Hey guys, if this year's offseason duplicates last year's, how do you think the fan base and media will react, and what chances do you think the Pirates will sign a free agent to a 2 or 3 year deal? Well, that's a bunch of things. Jim, let me start.
All right. And by the way, Bruce, I thought about this recently too, about like what happens if nothing really looks that different?
You're right. I mean, obviously, your second question about like the free agent a 2 or 3 year deal can't coexist with duplicating last year's, off season. So we'd have to start with that being out of the premise for it. How do I think the fan base and media will react? Well, I think some of the sell the team people this year will probably walk away altogether now. I think that's step one. And then others will join that cause and it'll stay about the same size. So it'll be some people will just move out entirely, some people will come that were resistant to it and join it. It'll maybe get a little bit louder. You know what I mean? As far as the media goes, look back to what happened when Neil Huntington got fired. He didn't fire him immediately. The media lost their ever loving mind about it for about 2 months, and then he succumbed and fired them both. I could see it being just like that. I could see him thinking, "No, I'm going to hold on to him. It just doesn't make sense right now. I don't really want to change all this. I like certain things." And then I could see the local media and the fans taking about 2 months and talking his ass out of it. Jim, what do you think?
Yeah, it's a great question, great questions. I think the thing that I don't even want to have to think about is if nothing changes and they're in year 3 of Paul Skeens and he's doing this still, where he's, let's say he's at the point next year where he's right in the same boat. He's going to win the Cy Young, or he's going to be there, and nothing has changed with either the record or what they did in the offseason to help that. Man, from a baseball standpoint and a sports standpoint, that's that's so depressing.
I'm trying to think of what would be different. Okay, like, am I going to get a different version of Tommy Pham? I think I will. What is it going to be though? Like, is it going to be like, let's say a top 10 outfielder, a top 15 free agent outfielder? Do you think? I mean, like, that would be better than Pham. Let's be completely real. That would be an upgrade on what they were thinking. I don't even know who that is. Just a top 15 free agent outfielder. That's probably something that you could see them getting. You can tell what they're doing right this part of the season is showing you that the infield's going to be real hard to address. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I don't think you're going to see a lot of movement in the infield. I think they're going to roll with what they have and hope that somebody out of the group of, the Triolos and the Gonzaleses and the Nick Yorks of the world, somebody's going to step up and solidify things. I think catcher's interesting a little bit. Not sure what they're going to do there, but it would have to be in the outfield. The Kutch thing, I think, is interesting. Just for the fact that he says he wants to come back, I assume he means here. But would he be willing to go anywhere else? Do they really want him back?
I don't know, because I think Flores could use some at bats there, and I think it was nice to see that they let him catch. That was a good thing to see. I wonder, Jim, what would you say if, the offseason looked exactly the same, and this would never happen. This would never happen. But what would you say if they came out and they said, listen, we're not going to go out and sign any free agents. We're not doing some silly trade where we're going to just regret it later, or watch somebody else Quinn Priester it up. You know what I mean? Screw that. You can just expect that Connor Griffin and Termar Johnson are going to be up here in spring playing. That's 2 holes right there. That's how we're filling them. We're going Miami Marlins. We're going to let the youth do what the youth does and see what happens. That might very well be the smartest way they could possibly go. Would you accept it if they told you that way?
Well, I always, especially with young guys, I always feel like, and I think a lot of fans miss this, which is like, I don't do anything different with a young guy, no matter what the situation is at the major league level. Like, it's all about his progression and nothing interferes with that, right? Like, so I guess if they're ready, or you're confident that they are, I wouldn't have a problem with it.
If you go and you don't sign anybody, the fans are going to go insane.
Well, right.
So the only way I could see them not going insane, I'm just trying to almost really completely answer Bruce's question. Because the only way I can think of not going insane would be if they were to come out and say, like, nope, we're just not going to throw money. We're not going to throw bad money at this situation. We think it's dumb. We're signing Connor 10 years, $80 million. We hope that he wins a job out of spring. If he doesn't, but he's part of the plan this year. And Termar, we believe, is going to make it this year too. Until then, we're going to deal with what we got. Maybe if they were just direct and honest with us, I wonder if people would take that better, because I can explain that plan and have it make sense. I can't say if people would accept it.
Yeah, and to your point with that, I've told you, in passing, and I think you've thought the same thing, which is, we just wonder, is there ever going to be anything more than like the Tommy Pham type signing, right? Like, so when you start thinking that maybe that is just really the possibility, then I can see why you would raise that question. The fans, I think, would be happy with it. But then if either of them struggles, then it's back to, well, they've ruined another one, and it was too soon, and there was, so they're not going to, they haven't earned the right to win in any type of PR battle. But you could see it going the other way, where, God, if they both struggled, then what?
Sure. We're assuming that would be the outcome, or could be the outcome, because it's possible, right? I'm just saying, what if they were, when they talk about internal growth, what if they were more explicit about it? What if they were directly calling out, like, we expect contributions from blah, 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 these guys this year. And that's where it's coming from. When we talk about these internal, this is exactly where we're expecting from. It's why we decided not to sign here. They did that with pitching this year. They mentioned that they only signed one starter, and they explained why they felt they could get away with only signing one starter, and they talked through the depth. I think that's all I'm asking them to do, really, around the diamond, because I do think they have a lot of guys that they'd like to give an opportunity to win a spot. And that yells to me, I'm not going to sign an awful lot of proven starters to block those guys, right? And I'm thinking in my head, I'm looking at one proven bat someplace, probably in the outfield. And that's if I believe in Oneil Cruz. You know what I mean? Like, so there's some already limiting factors there. I think it's going to look like a very light offseason. somebody with a little bit of nuance and ability to speak is going to have to explain this vision. And I don't want to have to do it for them, even if I can see it.
Well, that's always been the issue with them, right? Is the messaging. I think if they even if it appeared to be that, let's say we get into spring training and they are legitimately saying, Connor Griffin, you have Connor Griffin, Tamar Johnson, there are no roadblocks. You can make the team. You can be. I still think most people would say they would be pissed that they didn't go out and at least add one legitimate bat. And when I say legitimate, I mean for Pirate standards. I still think people would be not quite okay with that. And they probably shouldn't, because you're counting on something that you're just not sure how that's going to work out. So aren't we to the point where you'd like to have a little bit of a plan B? Like, we never have plan Bs in Pittsburgh. That's the other thing, is like, it's always like, this is it, and hopefully everyone's healthy and hopefully everyone improves. There's never a backup plan. And so I think people would take issue with that this time around.
I would agree with you, man. I think it's going to take communication skills that, frankly, we've never seen them have. Like, I've never seen any Bob Nutting regime have communication skills, save the experience of Clint Hurdle talking about his dugout, period. You know what I mean? And the relationship that he was going to build with his players, with this city. That's the best communication job I ever remember happening under Bob Nutting. I just feel like what has to happen this offseason requires a little bit of explanation, because I think unless you're talking about transformative change, meaning like moving out like an O'Neill Cruz or a Brian Reynolds, you're not going to change the fabric of this team all that drastically. It's going to be made up of a mix of a lot of what we're seeing right now.
And maybe, Gary, what it comes down to is if none of this comes to fruition, and I mean even the communication, which has always been lacking, is that I think we're getting our answer about how they are going to do this. If there's not a lot of movement, they're not really communicating any type of like message moving forward, we're probably getting our answer. The plan is that it's all going to have to come internally, other than like the fringe signing, and that's with pitching staff be damned. That might have always been the reality.
You know what I want to do? I want to talk a little bit about how the playoffs are shaping up around the league, because sometimes I think we forget when we're watching Pirates games that there's real baseball that's actually entertaining going on. We got a little bit of a look under the skirt at it facing the Reds, and now I feel like we need to talk a little bit about some of these races going on. What do you think?
Yeah, we don't get to experience the fun of baseball, but there's actually a lot of really interesting, fun, cool things going on. We just don't really get to experience it for ourselves here.
Right. So let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll talk about it a little bit.
At DK Pittsburgh Sports, we take pride in coverage that connects our city's fans to their favorite teams. Now, that connection's stronger than ever. Introducing our all-new state-of-the-art app. Find expert inside reporting and original podcasts. Check live box scores. Track the latest stats. Chat it up with our community of thousands of fans, all in one place. The new app from DK Pittsburgh Sports. Coverage that connects.
Hey, welcome back to the Pirates Fan Forum here on DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. So, Jim, the playoffs are heating up. The race to get there is really entertaining. The Reds are right there. nipping at the heels of the Mets, who are falling, and like the most expensive team in the league is barely going to cripple into the wild card, or get overtaken by the Reds. That's what it's down to at this point. Boy, Detroit had like a 15 game lead on the Guardians, and now the Guardians lead the AL Central. The Blue Jays kind of came out of nowhere to take a division. I don't think anybody gave them a chance to win going into it. I think they were maybe people's fourth pick for that division, if not fifth. It's been crazy.
Yeah, I mean, the Cleveland thing is shocking. Like, they were down, I think it was like a 0% chance, which I don't understand how it can be zero, even like if mathematically it can work. How can it be zero?
So you're saying like next year in like August, when the Pirates are like 16 games back or something, someone's going to tell us that Cleveland just did it last year, so we have to pretend they're still in the race.
Well, yeah, what the hell else do we have to hold on to? It's not going to be
it's not honestly though, it's been crazy, and like there's people I think that are making it out like Detroit has fumbled this, but Detroit's played okay, for having a 15 game lead, and then the Guardians have just gone ape.
Well, it's funny. There was like a 10-game stretch recently that really like made this interesting because the Tigers went 1-9 and the Guardians went 9-1, and like you're making up 8-ish games within like 11 days or something. Like it's an insane scenario.
It's a reverse Uno card for real.
Yeah, absolutely. Even like if you look at like, trying to look at the standings, like the Dodgers.
I like this too. Gregory put in what his wish list for the World Series: Seattle versus San Diego. Guys, put those in. Put in your World Series wish list, and I'm trying out this new thing that's supposed to auto put up your comments. So as you pop in your World Series wish list, that should come up on the screen.
Yeah, nothing perverted. I don't care how sexy you think Gary looks tonight in his hotel room. Nothing out of line.
Right. I don't even have Veronica, my blow up doll, anywhere near the camera. So, like,
I always wondered why you kept an air pump on you while you traveled without. Didn't make any sense. Okay, makes sense.
There you go. Yeah, look, it's actually feeding up there. There's Seattle versus the Reds. Good. All right, guys, do that. Put your World Series wish list in there. I love it. So, yeah, Jim, I think the most interesting race by far right now is the AL Central, and it's very recent that it got interesting. I thought the Tigers had that put away. Now, the Yankees maybe have been the best team in baseball down the stretch here, right? And I don't know, man. Like, I don't even think I like the Blue Jays the best in the AL East. I kind of like Boston to kind of come out of nowhere. I think they've got enough elite pitching that they can get through a short series, and they've got enough hitting to do some really scary things. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Boston's somebody to keep an eye on. I would like to see teams like Toronto. I wouldn't mind seeing do well. I kind of like their deal up there. They seem to try. They have some hitting, some likable players. The Padres, not in love with their players. I'm not a huge Machado or a Tatis guy, but I like that they're always seeming to go for it. Yeah. Those are teams. If the Brewers weren't in our division, I'd probably root for them a little bit more. And God, they've had so many they've fallen flat on their face in the playoffs.
Can I just be honest with you? I don't believe in the Brewers. I think they're regular season champions. I don't think that they've got what it takes to go through the playoff gauntlet. and face the all-star teams they're going to face on the way there. I just don't. Eventually the water bug gets squashed, and that's what I think is going to happen to them. Just like what I think happens to Cleveland every time they get in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I think you see this with a lot of the teams that don't have, like, they're finding other ways to win, right? Than just like having like the thumpers. But when the playoffs roll around anymore, if you look at the numbers the last 5-10 years, the thumpers went out. Like they just do.
If you're gonna bring up thumpers, then we have to talk about something else. How about the MVP race in the AL?
The big thumper, the big dumper.
Yes, because you got the big dumper and you got Aaron Judge. And
all right, shot out of a cannon. People in the comments, give us your MVP in the AL.
No, I see big dumper right away in there. Now listen, here's what I think. I think people are not giving him enough credit for also being a catcher at the same time as hitting all these home runs as a switch hitter. You know what I mean? Like, I think he deserves a little more credit for the defense that he brings to the table too. So if it's a tie between him and Judge, I go with Cal. What do you think, man? Looks like in the chat, most people are Cal.
This is kind of like one of the most interesting MVP conversations because like on the Judge side, you're a slave to just the numbers, right? And I get it. The numbers are great across the board. But I tend to look at it as like, I really think the catching part of it, like you said, gets so undersold in this. You're talking about a guy that's going to catch 135 to 140 games in the majors. And come on, we watch baseball. You see the absolute beating these dudes take behind the plate. And by the way, that's why a lot of them, yes, they're not good hitters to begin with, but that's why catching statistics are in the offensive statistics are in the dump, and it's why they've always been in the dump, right? Like it's not it. Man, you're talking about. Here's what I know. I think catching's besides quarterback in the NFL. I think it's maybe one of the top two hardest things to do in sports.
Truth.
And I think switch hitting is one of the top hardest things to do in sports. Like it's such an insane skill, and he's hit the most home runs for a switch hitter ever. And think about some of the guys that we're talking about that are switch hitters in all time in baseball, and then he's blown away the stat for home runs by a catcher. I saw a stat the other day where he's going to receive like 18,000 pitches like this year. I just feel like at the very least, I would be willing to go co-MVP because Judge is having such a great year. Now, but I really like where people lose me is they're like, Judge clears by a mile. Cal Raleigh, it's not even close.
Are you swayed at all because this is probably not repeatable for Cal Raleigh? Like, let's just be real. He's laying everything he's got into this season.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's caught like 120 games, I think Josh put in the chat there. You know, he's awesome. But like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Judge is more of a well-rounded hitter, though. You know, and he's no slouch on defense either. But it just feels like a catcher shouldn't. This is probably one of the best seasons, period, by a catcher ever.
Yeah, there's a handful that you can point to over the history of baseball with Bench and Posey, and Piazza had a fantastic season in there. So like it's one of the best.
I'm sure Pudge has had some. crazy season.
Top 10-ish best catching seasons of all time for,
I mean, he's going to win Silver Slugger, and he's going to, he'll win some kind of awards and everything.
But Gary, have we lost are we a slave to the numbers now? Because like baseball with MVP, it's never been about there's no definition. It's not best player, it's most valuable player. And it always seems to like bounce back and forth year to year, or there's no real rules with that. So
well, let's play this out a little bit. Okay, like Paul Skeens is incredible, right? He's going to pitch here.
That's the rumor.
He's going to pitch here for. Let's just pretend the Pirates do the right thing. Let's say 10 years from now, he's got 7 Cy Youngs already in his pocket. He has another incredible season. He's clearly the Cy Young. Some upstart young lefty has a really good season, and don't you think sometimes that little upstart kid gets a little bit of a bump over the guy who's won it a bunch? You know what I mean? Those kind of awards. Gold Glove, not so much. Gold Glove, they love to just coronate. You're the Gold Glover forever because you won the Gold Glove. But Cy Young, MVP, you tend to want to see the king dethroned every once in a while, right? Like maybe there'll be a little bit of a groundswell against Judge, this year, if only because he could do it again and has done it recently. And,
you're talking Judge fatigue a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. Like I could see people being like, it's special. It's incredible, but it's not so crazy above what he did last year. And he might do it again next year. Is it likely that Cal Raleigh's going to go out and hit almost 60 home runs and catch 125 games? And you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
This might be a once in a lifetime performance for a guy like that, right?
Right. And you asked the question is like, should it matter that next year Cal Raleigh probably hits 32 home runs, right? And
sure. I mean, maybe not, but yeah.
Yeah, I think I think this is one of the most fascinating MVP conversations of our time because it's such a unique situation. I will say that Aaron Judge is by far and away the best hitter in baseball right now, and I mean nobody can hit 300. He's hitting 330, 340, something like that. He's
right.
The home runs, the RBIs, whatever. But I look at it back to what the MVP can mean sometimes, and I think about as important as Aaron Judge is to the Yankees, where would Seattle be without Cal Raleigh?
Certainly not in the playoffs, right?
Right. Like, yeah, okay, they're doing things a little differently there. He has to be so valuable for them. So that makes it tough for me. If it's my vote, I give it to Raleigh. I do think you can make a case though that they both deserved it, and I would be okay with that as well.
And the NL MVP is not interesting at all, really, is it? Like, it's showy, probably. Who else? Soto?
Kyle Schwarber probably has a good
Schwarber?
case. He's what, 56 home runs and 132 RBI is pretty impressive. But he's got the same flaw that Cal Raleigh has, which is he's batting 246. Raleigh's batting 248. I will say, I do think it's funny how for the last 10 years, we've heard batting average doesn't matter. But boy, is it getting brought up a lot in these conversations. So that to me is funny as well. Both Schwarber's probably should maybe get a little more credit for what he's doing there.
if you want to give credit to Cal Raleigh for being the most valuable player, I think you got to do the same thing for Schwarber, because they have bigger stars than him, but he is the heart and soul of that Philadelphia team. He really is.
Yeah.
And he'll do
Yeah. No,
whatever they want.
listen, Terry Pendleton won an MVP over Barry Bonds, and I don't think Terry Pendleton hit like 17 homers and 86 RBI or something crazy like that. So, and some people have a problem with that, but it was more about Terry Pendleton, and I think he was a Gold Glover that year, and all the big hits that he had. The Braves came back to prominence. So there's a lot of things when it's not clearly defined. I think this is what you get. I think that's what makes baseball kind of interesting at times.
Yeah, and I think another guy that we're going to get fatigued with, though, is Shohei.
You expect it, right?
Well, that's a guy that I just think we're going to get tired of the perpetual awards and everything. The good thing is, I believe the Pirates have the pitcher that's going to prevent him from being a perennial Cy Young winner, though. So at least we won't be double dipping on us with the Cy Young and the MVP, right?
Hey, yeah, and you know what? Maybe Paul Skeens has another trick up his sleeve. Maybe he gets in some MVP votes at some point.
Yeah, it ain't going to be this year, I don't think.
But, no, yeah. But I'm saying, like, if we think they're going to try to do it how they're doing it, he'd almost have to have one of those types of years.
So who do you think? We asked the audience who they wanted in the World Series. Who do you want in the World Series? I'll go second this time.
I think I'll stick with something weird. I'll still go with the San Diego and Toronto. Just feel like those are two fan bases that the teams have tried there, and they've always fallen short. But they've spent to their capabilities, I think.
I would agree there.
Like I said, the Brewers, I wouldn't do it just because, I have a problem with rooting for anybody in the division. But those would be my two, I think, Gary.
Yeah.
What about you?
I think I have to go Mariners.
Okay.
I've been pulling for the Mariners for a couple seasons, and this one they've got a different look this year. I think they really could sneak past somebody. So I'm going with the Mariners coming out of the American League, and I was so torn because I really do like Boston too. I think Boston is a young team that could sneak in too and kind of surprise some things. But the Mariners is who I'll go with there. National League, Phillies. I just think the Phillies, as long as their pitching can hold up.
Now, wait. Are we doing who we want or who we think? Because I think I did who I wanted.
I just did who I want.
Okay.
Philly, I want Philly. I like kind of the way that team's come together. I really like the Kyle Schwarber attitude. I've really bought into it this year and watched it a lot. It's been fun to watch, actually. I hate everyone else in the NL East. So
that's my problem. Yeah, that's like my problem. And I'm like, Milwaukee, nope, can't root for them. Philly, no, I like to see Philly fans suffer. Dodgers, well, maybe I should just say Dodgers just because I want them to keep winning, to just keep making a mockery of things. Cubs, can't root for them. Mets, can't root for them. So I fall to San Diego maybe by pure default.
I hear you, bro. I might root for the Brewers. I just, honest to God, I'm not even trying to be vindictive about it or something. I just don't believe in them. I don't know what it is, man. I feel like when you get into a playoff series, I'm a Pirates fan, and here's the thing. I don't go into a Milwaukee Brewers series looking at the pitching matchups and feeling like I don't have a chance.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just can't. I can't like sit here and pretend that I think that's a World Series team, despite what they've done. And I'll tell you I'm wrong if I am. Okay, who
Yeah.
cares? I'm not going to bet on it or anything. You know what I mean?
Well, we've been wrong many times. No, and I think like when you get to these games, the weather turns cold. Pitching is so much tougher. Every pitch is so much more guarded for what you'll give a hitter. That I do think you get to the point where that's why you see the Otanis and the Judges of the world and the Raleighs and the guys, the Schwarbers, they'll be the difference makers.
I
They will.
totally agree.
They are the ones that now carry you in the playoffs, and the home run ends up being the difference.
So what if the Tigers? What if the Tigers back in? Like, and say they back into the playoffs and they somehow hold off the Guardians and they get in. Do you kind of like think of them the way they were all season long, or do you think about them the way they finished? We've had Steelers finish like that, right? You know, like they get off to like an 11-0 start, and then they end up 11-6 and barely in the playoffs, and you're not looking at them like they're an 11-6 team, you know?
No, I think, yeah, no. In football, it's just like I think you can see like death coming. You can see death coming, right? Like
we'll use the one series we know exists already. The Padres and the Cubs are going to play each other. We know that. We don't know who's the home versus away to start yet, but we know that series is happening in Wild Card Weekend. So look at that one series. The Cubs are cold as hell. They're in trouble if they got to go to San Diego. Because if they don't have the advantage of that instant pop that they get in Wrigley, and you don't get it there, San Diego will dismantle them.
Yeah, that's a really interesting series. I could see that one kind of going either way, to be honest.
San Diego's bullpen is relentless.
They've had to be. They're almost as bad as hitting home runs as the Pirates this year. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they're the outlier of all the teams that make the playoffs, which is they don't hit homers. So I think that's a really good early matchup in the playoffs. So, I mean, that's the one thing is like that baseball does get right. If you can get in, typically it's very hard to forecast and predict how these series are going to go, which that's the frustrating part about it for the Pirates. They're not even getting a late invitation to the party where things get real even real quick.
Yeah, I mean, because Jim, I would kill for us to be doing a show right now about how you're going to line up that rotation going into a particular series. And
isn't it sad we don't ever get to do that?
Exactly, man. That's what it's all about. We need to have it. You know, that's what we need to get to. Anyways, this has been great, guys. Thank you so much for bearing with the sound quality and hopefully not a lot of internet issues. I didn't feel like we had them.
No, there was a couple little max headroom moments, but not too bad. And nobody under 40 knows what the hell I just said anyway. So,
yeah. And I kind of liked having your comments just scrolling on the screen, guys. I really did. Like, it's a beta. We'll see if they take it away. But if they let us keep doing that, I kind of like that. And you guys were really cool about it. So good stuff.
Well, and you know what, Gary? Like, I'll close with saying that, like, the Red Series makes you want interesting baseball in Pittsburgh even more because, you know, that this series matters to them. And I'm glad the Pirates showed up and made them earn even a win. But Paul Skeens, man, he deserves to be on a stage like that, you know. And
sure does.
Of course, he didn't disappoint. Yeah. And so, it was great to actually feel alive during a series. But man, Pirate fans, I know everybody out there is just wanting to see that matter for us too.
Me too, brother. I mean, I can't wait to have baseball that matters and my wife's silly fall decorations. You know what I mean? Like, I need it. I need it, my friend. I need hoodie weather and baseball that matters, and I will be more excited than you could possibly imagine. So,
yeah, and maybe next week we'll start digging into some more pirate centric stuff. But I thought this was a good show because when you watch baseball as we do, sometimes it's okay to start appreciating things outside of Pittsburgh because there are some cool things going on in the game.
totally, man. All right, hey, catch you later, everybody. We're tossing off to Ben.
Let's go, Bucks!
Yeah, buddy.